Welcome to The Smart Athlete. Insightful conversations with some of the smartest athletes, coaches, and trainers around the world. In these conversations, we hear future goals, daily habits, and the nuanced steps of the athlete en route to successful craft, all hosted by Brit Smart.
All right, so today for our Smart Athlete, we have Sami Whitcomb. Thanks for coming and chatting with me today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for including me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, when I think of Sami, I definitely think of a smart athlete. I've been competing against you the last few years, and just the way that you've come basically almost out of nowhere and just really taken over the basketball world has been really, really cool. So we'll talk a little bit about your journey in WNBL, Europe, WNBA, and some of the current achievements that you've had. But before we even go into all that and into your background, congrats to the Seattle Storm winning the championship. That's really awesome. So good work.
Thank you. Yeah, it was an interesting experience in the bubble, but incredible. So glad I got to participate for most of it, and really special that we ended up getting the win.
Oh yeah, I mean, just going on that, we'll just start a little bit right there, just because it recently happened. I know that you decided to come back to Australia, get your quarantine done, be with your wife who's expecting here pretty soon, which is pretty cool and a pretty brave and bold decision, which I know a lot of people have probably been asking you about. But just quickly run through what that decision was for you and what you're feeling about it now and so on.
Yeah, I mean, when I left Australia to go to the bubble, things were actually pretty good, particularly in Perth, just in terms of COVID and everything. And then while I was over there was sort of like another outbreak in Melbourne, and that sort of put everything back on hold in terms of just the number of flights, people being allowed in, all the restrictions sort of changed again. So it became kind of apparent that I would potentially have to leave early. And then, the closer we got as we were looking at flights, there just weren't any. There were none into Perth, which meant obviously going through Sydney. So it was going to be 2 weeks quarantine in a hotel there and 2 weeks quarantine in Perth as well. So it was unfortunate, not ideal, but I made it through the semis. And then when we won there, it was gonna basically mean I had to leave if I wanted to not risk missing the berth. So I left. As it was less a decision about leaving. I knew I wasn't gonna miss the berth. I knew I didn't want to, or I should say, I knew I didn't want to compromise missing the berth. So I knew if that was the choice, I was gonna leave. It was a matter kind of more of how do we make that happen? Finding the flights, getting the quarantines, applying for exemptions just in case, but obviously approved. And then, just obviously trying to survive a double quarantine as well, which has been difficult in itself. And then obviously, it's now that I'm here and the games were happening and I could watch. That was probably the hardest part, really. It was amazing seeing them win. It was amazing still trying to be a part of it through the group chats and calls, and did some videos and stuff with them. But, at the end of the day, I wasn't there and I didn't get to celebrate and lift that trophy and all that. So that was difficult. But, I'm happy with my decision. I know I made the right one. And pretty soon here, I'll be home and I'll get to meet baby boy, and that will be worth it.
Yeah, man. I mean, it sounds like an up and down road. And I know a lot of athletes, hit adversity and such, but this type of adversity is different because you're away from your family. You're about to have a son, I believe it is. Is it a boy or? Yeah. And with COVID, there's so many decisions, I think, that a lot of people don't realize that athletes do have normal lives. And yeah.
Yeah, and that's what, 2020 has kind of put that into perspective for everyone. I think just priorities and how fragile things can be, and fluid they can be, that bubble experience, things were changing every day, every week. You'd have false positives, and then you'd have, just different things like that you were faced with because of COVID and because of just the nature of how things were right now. That were different and new and challenging, and I think, we're all really grateful for that experience and for the opportunity to still just play. I think so many people just wanted to be able to play again, right? I'm sure you're feeling that same way when you're an athlete and you spend so much of your life and so much of your time working at something, and then it's taken away unexpectedly. It's scary. It's hard. So I think that was, it was nice just being able to have that, to be able to go there, to be able to compete. And all that was really phenomenal. But like you said, at the end of the day, we're humans, we're people first. And being back with Kate, making sure I was here for the birth, all of those things are ultimately more important to me. And honestly, I'm not sure I would have been in a good headspace had I stayed and was just sitting there stressing about whether or not I was going to be able to, catch a flight back and be here in time. And as I'm sure we'll talk about, that's a really important part of sports, your mental, just where you're at mentally, your mental well-being, all of those things, they all play a part. They all really contribute to being successful in anything. And so for me, that was something I had to sort of prioritize as well.
Yeah. I mean, so how did you, with the whole environment being different and Kate not being there, maybe the usual people that you're used to relying on and having support from, where did you look to? How did you get through a tight bubble situation? Were you able to get some space away when needed? Do you do any type of, mental practices or mantras or just anything to kind of get your mind right? Or was it really just simple steps of going day to day, maybe making sure you're talking to a couple people or anyone that you could be vulnerable with? So how did you create a supportive, athletic environment for yourself in this new situation?
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult. It was challenging. And it was something that I think I was working on every day, and it was changing every week because I was feeling different every week, and every day. Like some days you were, it wasn't as stressful, wasn't as overwhelming that you were sort of stuck in this bubble where you couldn't get away. And some days all you wanted was just space to yourself, and you just felt so overwhelmed that you couldn't really get that. So they offered like morning yoga and stuff during the week. So I would sign up for those because nobody went to them because it was at 7. So that was a bit of me, I could go there and there'd be one other person there. And I could have some me time that way. Obviously there were other things I tried to do. We got paint by numbers. So I would just sit, put on my headphones and do these painting things. I lived in a villa with some of the girls. So we would cook together and do things like that just felt kind of normal as well. Then I just think it was trying to find that balance because I do work really hard and I train a lot. And I was training a lot still. Every day there was kind of not a day off scenario because you were playing every other day. So those in between days you were still doing things because you couldn't just do nothing still. So it was, especially for me, I'm not a starter. So, and, my minutes do vary. So it can be tough to kind of figure out, well, if I didn't really play a lot in the game, I need to do this extra stuff in those in-between games, and you might play a little bit more. So finding that balance was really important too. And I mean, basketball is a bit of an escape for me. It's something that I love to do. It's something that I would do. I always say I would do it anyways if I wasn't getting paid to do it. So going to the gym on my own, the gym was open at night, so you could go and I would go, and whether it was by myself or with one of our staff who was really fantastic at just trying to help me work on getting better and things like that still during the season was really great. We would try and come up with new things that we could do and try. And that was kind of a way of balancing my mental health as well. Not feeling like I was sort of so, I don't know, every day felt like the same. So trying to just find and add something new every day was kind of important too sometimes, just doing something slightly different so it didn't feel like you'd just done the same exact day, over and over again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was lots of little things, but definitely as tough as it was physically, I think the mental side of it was really, really pivotal, I think, for lots of people. And it was something you really had to spend time nurturing. You really had to find things that worked for you. And like I said, for me, it was something that I found changed kind of week to week. I was always kind of trying to just stay in touch with what I felt like I needed that week, whether it was more time by myself. And sometimes it was, I'm feeling a little bit lonely and overwhelmed almost. Maybe I need to go and do some things with people and, try and connect a little bit more. And then obviously, I'm talking to Kate every day kind of thing, but that's hard too because you're so reliant then on your phone, and like that can be really frustrating and annoying as well. So yeah, it's definitely something that I think helped me grow and helps me figure myself out a little bit more as a person and as an athlete. But yeah, it was difficult at times for sure.
Yeah, I mean, definitely an eye-opening experience. Maybe you learned some things that maybe you don't even realize now, but look, you might rely on something in the future where you're kind of like, okay, I can relate to this situation. I've been it before, I can get through it. And I think what you said just about, going into the gym or different yoga or, different things to kind of get your mind away, but you're still preparing and working on your craft. I think that's kind of what I found, this last 6 months or so with COVID is I just call it mindful movement where, and I know that you and I have talked about reverse sled a lot because it's easy for athletes to overtrain. And I would say that and walking, but the fact that this is reverse sled is kind of probably better for an athlete as far as recovery or strength, where I would do that mindful movement. So I would like go outside for 20 minutes. It sounds like grueling workout, but I would just walk. And I would walk and just reverse for 20 minutes. And sometimes, like you said, sometimes I needed to call someone, whether it's my brother back in the States or other times it's just clearing the air or it's just music or just silence, like listening to the birds for the hour that we got outside. But especially for athletes, because it's almost just like, I needed my mind to not just be sitting somewhere and stressing about this or thinking about this or the next game coming up, or even for me, just the next workout by myself outside with not the proper equipment. How am I going to feel like I'm still moving forward? But it sounded like that mindful movement to you can be really good for athletes because you're still getting better and you're still working hard, but it's in a recovery way where you're just building more soft tissue and you're actually preparing yourself for a better game. And that's just my mindful movement, but I think,
I found that incredibly helpful. Like when you're playing every other day, obviously it's not like I could get in heavy lifts once we started doing that, but I needed still to be doing things that I felt like were helping my body be prepared for that amount of load and work and whatever. Even just with like, we would have a practice and then a game and then a practice. And obviously the practices were, moderate, like they weren't hard practices and stuff, but because I was still trying to do enough to feel good and feel like I was, like you said, progressing, I did want to make sure I was getting in the gym and doing those things. So it was about finding little ways that, okay, well, I've got this Achilles thing that sort of bothers me, or, this thing sort of irritates me, or this, I wanted to improve on single leg strength or whatever it was. And that's where I found like the stuff that you were doing with the sleds, the smart knees, all of those things were really helpful just in feeling like I was taking the time to really utilize the time that I had and the access to these gyms and everything, and not overtrain or overwork, but do something that was going to, in the long run, maybe help me. Even if it was sort of just as like a prehab thing, a preventative thing, whatever. I did find that those were really helpful in, I think, just making me feel like I was doing something that was worthwhile. And just taking a small step forward every day. Those 1%ers, those things kind of matter. And I think when you're an athlete, if you don't feel like you're doing that, it can kind of just make you feel bad. I don't know. So it was nice to feel like I could still do those simple things. And it wouldn't be at the detriment of my body overall, or my energy.
Yeah, because, everything we do, we want to supplement being as prepared as possible on the court. So you're able to find some things that would prepare your performance on the court, but also be good for your mental health and also not tire you out, and a change of pace, finding some new exercises that are healthy. Like you said, it's just the same thing over and over, game, practice. How are you breaking that monotony up? And, even just you reaching out to me or reaching out to just your own resources that you have, you talked about the 1%ers, the little things. And to me, I don't know a ton about the details of your career, but doing those little things, I think has helped you kind of, get to the point where you are today in your career. I feel like you're at the height of your career and I feel like you have many years left. But it kind of just seems like you were able to continue to find little things, find resources. If you hit a plateau, something seems a bit off. What else can I do or not do or change up to kind of get where I want to get, even if you were quote unquote a late bloomer, so to speak, when it comes to getting to WNBL, WNBA, and so on. So I just want to just chat a little bit about your journey. Maybe we'll just start with how you got started in basketball, your college career, and then kind of what changed, when you came to Australia and played, and before you just kind of came into the WNBL and wrecked it all, and it was all about how can we stop Sami, and that whole journey. But how'd you get started in basketball? What were the little things that you think now have gotten you to the point where you are now? But I'm sure you still have farther goals that we'll talk about in a bit. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I started playing in like middle school. I played soccer first, kind of fell out of love with it, jumped into basketball and just loved it instantly. And yeah, it just became kind of an obsession. So from an early age, I really liked, I loved I went to school early and I would go and play in the gym there. I would stay after school and play on the courts. When I went to high school, at lunch break, I would go in the gym and I would play. I was always kind of that just little gym rat that just wanted to like play and get better. And I enjoyed it. I genuinely just enjoyed it. But I always felt like I wasn't as good. So I felt like I knew I needed to work hard. And that was kind of my mentality on the court as well. I was sort of just a scrappy player. I wasn't always, I wasn't a great shooter when I first started playing, but I rebounded and I was bigger when I was in high school. So I sort of played that like 3-4, where I would rebound and I would get to the rim and get fouled, and those kinds of things were more my style then. And then when I went to college, I wasn't like heavily recruited or anything, but UW was very interested. So I went there, and that was when I first started to kind of like develop an outside shot and all that. Cause they kind of just told me straight up, if you wanted to play more, you had to be a pro shooter. Yeah. And they had, those shooting machines, and there were so many more resources at that level. So I used them all. And, I spent like just hours and hours in the gym all of the time. I remember we used to, one of the freshmen on the men's team, he was just as much like a gym rat. And we used to, we'd have all of our normal all day things that we did with the teams. We'd have all of the schoolwork stuff we had to do. And then we'd have dinner. And then at like midnight, we'd come back to the gym. And there was this one door that you could break into. And so we would go and we would shoot for like 2 hours and play one-on-one. And then we would leave and go home and do it all over the next day. So that's always been a big part of it. But I think as I've gotten older and once I graduated, wasn't drafted, got cut from my one tryout that I had with a WNBA team, and just saw, I think, how far off I was, honestly. Like, as devastating as it was getting cut, because that just always hurts, I was very much in tune with the fact that I didn't deserve to be there yet. I wasn't good enough to be at that level. But I think what was so eye-opening was the gap was quite bigger probably than I would have hoped for it to have been. And it was the physicalness, it was the fitness, it was the IQ, the speed and pace of the game, all of those things. I just felt like, okay, well, now I've seen it, I felt it, I've had a little taste of what it takes. And I just felt like I'll just go and play overseas and figure that out, and just each year hopefully get better and have another opportunity each year. And I think you take for granted the fact that those opportunities just don't come up as much as you kind of think or hope they will. So went overseas and was in Germany for 2 years, Slovakia for like half a season, came to Australia via SBL. So that was how I got like a look in Australia. It wasn't through WNBL yet. It was through SBL. And it was during my first SBL season that I went to like a Perth Dandenong game, I believe it was. And Jenna O'Hay was playing for Dandenong at the time. And I just remember seeing her specifically though, and that level of play and how good it was. And I had no idea there was a league in Australia that was, that good and that had players like that. And that was kind of my first, like, okay, this could be a really great opportunity for me to take like that next step into a great league and develop. And hopefully maybe that will give me an opportunity. Because at that stage, I'd played now 3 years or whatever it was overseas and not had like one even close opportunity to like getting another tryout back in WNBA. And I felt like I'd improved, but I wasn't where I wanted to be still, obviously. So that though took me 3 years of playing in the SBL before a WNBL team was interested. So it was hard because I felt like I was good enough to at least make a team or be on a roster. But they were so just keen to have WNBA players, and I wasn't a WNBA player. So as frustrating as it was a really great opportunity to figure out again what I needed to do to get better, how I could do that. So, in terms of, like you said, finding ways to get better than 1%ers, like fitness was a huge thing. Changing my diet was a huge thing. And trying to just maximize what I was putting in and getting out, because, you can work really, really hard, but if you're not fueling yourself the right way, if you're not doing the right workouts and those kinds of things, it can kind of all just be, for nothing. So that was when I finally, I think, was like really, my professionalism in terms of like my hard work was kind of finally meeting like a professionalism with how I was fueling myself and all of those things, recovering everything. And that was when I felt like, those were all kind of finally meeting. And then luckily it was at the end of that third SBL season that, the Wildcats took over the Lynx and sort of rebranded. And I finally got an opportunity to play WNBL. And I was hungry and I was, just ready to like, just prove that I belonged or whatever and make the most of the opportunity. And I had been working really hard for a few years and, trying to make the most of every opportunity that I could. And I felt like that was just my moment. I'd worked really hard. This was finally the opportunity. I was going to make sure I took it, kind of thing. But it was still, it was in my second year, I think, of WNBL that I finally, and this is now like 6 or 7 years of playing professionally, that I finally got my first opportunity after getting cut originally to try out for the WNBA again. So yeah, I mean, you take it for granted, I think, at the time that like you'll just get another tryout or you'll just, you'll get another chance, but they're few and far between. And I mean, it speaks more to the quality of, the league and the players. There are just so many great players, and every year there's a new crop that are coming out of college. So it's very competitive. It's very hard. And, more than anything, I'll just say I loved it enough. I cared enough, that I wanted to keep working and keep getting better. And sometimes it just takes that. It just takes being sort of persistent enough. And eventually, you just eventually get that opportunity sort of. And yeah, I was just really lucky that it happened when it did. And it happened with Seattle, because I think Seattle was a really great fit for me. And now I'm here. I've now just finished I don't even know how I'm saying this, but I finished my 4th season with them, which is just,
it's amazing.
It's insane. And, I still feel like I'm getting a little bit better every season, which is also exciting for me, because that's my goal. That's as much as I love to play, I love to just try and find a way in an aspect, in an area, and at whatever, to get better. And it's not just on the court, but, other ways as well, whether it's a little bit stronger here, a little bit better with this, a little bit more knowledgeable about something. And I feel like I still am, and that's exciting for me. And I think it's a part of why I've been able to be a part of the Storm squad now for 4 years. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm 32 and just, kind of still looking for those little things. I know what I need to kind of continue to get better on the floor. And it's now, again, still just trying to find those things off the floor, whether it's mentally, physically, that can help, support what I'm trying to do on the court, I guess.
Want to be a smart athlete? Be Smart Athletic provides a versatile protocol for pain-free longevity. To learn more about our SMART programs, follow me on Instagram at BeSmartAthletic or visit britsmart.com to get in touch. Yeah, no, that's really awesome. I mean, I can't imagine you going into the second tryout. You said you got cut the first time. The fact that you pushed through that. I have a couple questions, but one, just really quick with that first one, when you did get cut and you waited 6 years, was there a point where you just were going to give up and either stop playing or just say SBL, which is the state league in Perth. Anyone who doesn't understand the Australian way of doing things, were you just fine just staying there, or was there a point where you were just kind of like, if this is what it is, it's what it is. I'll just keep working hard. Was there a point where you just didn't think you were going to make it or wanted to give up, or were you pretty much just like, I'm just going to keep working hard, so when my opportunity comes, I'm ready? Or
yeah, I mean, in terms of like in relation to the WNBA, it was never like, I wasn't like every year like, okay, I'm going to do this and then go and see if I can get a tryout. It was like, I just wanted to get better and keep playing. And I felt like eventually an opportunity would come along. I will say eventually I did start to think, like, after I made it to WNBL, and the WNBL one was a little bit more frustrating because I felt like I knew I could play at that level. Yeah. Whereas, there was still uncertainty about WNBA. I just wanted an opportunity to see if I could and to try and prove that. Whereas with WNBL, I did feel like I could. So that one for me was like, I'm going to make a team. Like I got to going to that last year when Perth actually offered, I was getting ready to call coaches and say, I will fly over, I will try out, I'll do whatever I need to do to like show you that like I can play. I'll train with your team for free for a while, whatever. And then I got lucky that that's when the Perth thing happened. So I didn't have to do that, but I was very much prepared to. I'd gotten all the like emails and contacts that I needed to get to, and I was getting ready to send all of this stuff out. In terms of the WNBA, once I started playing WNBL and was doing, pretty well, I started to think, okay, well, look, I just want to do everything I can to put myself in position to do this. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I didn't want it to be for a lack of like me doing everything that I could do. So that meant like I needed to get a different agent, which I did, because the agent I had didn't really believe that I could play in the WNBA, and he wasn't really actively trying to help me do that. So I got a different agent. I was trying to play kind of, the best basketball that I could play. And then I was always just at the end of every year, like, if it doesn't happen, but I'm going to keep working and trying to get better and enjoying playing still. And as long as I'm doing that, if the WNBA doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. But if I've done something that I could, and I was trying and I was still getting better and enjoying that, I felt like it would. So that was kind of where I was at. It was in between. It's like, it wasn't like I was going to give up. It was just, I'm going to keep working and doing this. This is my journey. And I felt like I knew it was going to lead to that. And if it didn't, then that's what that was. I keep playing until I was just done. And if WNBA never happened, well, I did everything that I could to make that happen. And it wasn't meant to be, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
just think deep down, I felt like it was. So I was never really like stressed, like, oh my God, I have to do something, this year, or it's not gonna happen,
Yeah. Well, you had that, you talked about mentality before, and that mindset of almost, speaking it into existence or manifesting it, so to speak, at least knowing that, you did all of that, and then you just hope the other side kind of meets you, and then it becomes into existence, which is pretty cool. And you've talked a little bit like you were lucky to get it, but honestly, it's like when preparation meets opportunity, and that's a luck that you kind of created and manifested. And, it may not look like that for everyone, or maybe, it could have looked differently for you and you still would have been just as content and happy, so to speak, or, whatever it was. But I think there is something into that mindset mentality and creating opportunities for yourself and seeking out people that you can learn from, or new ways to do things, which, you start meeting new people and crossing paths and, making different connections, which is super important because, like you said, there's only 13 teams in the WNBA. It's just, there's there could be tons of people that could play in it, but there's just not many openings or opportunities. So, you did everything you could. You changed agents. You got people that supported you, that were on the same wavelength as you, which I think is super important. I think our environment, if people start pulling you in different ways, that's when you really need to think about what you really want and what you really want to focus on. But how did you feel going into that second tryout type of gig when, Seattle called you over and you're kind of doing those first few months? Was there doubt? Was it nervousness? How did you overcome the first few weeks of that?
Yeah, Kate went over 2 weeks early to get on the time zone, get acclimated. I did some like individuals with the assistant coaches and played, there was one of the girls on the team was dating a guy that was a coach. at a JC so we went and played pickup with his team. There was just a bunch of guys. We just played with them. So I did a bunch of things to sort of, try and get ready. And I like that preseason, my little preseason that I had leading into that tryout as well was like the hardest I felt like I'd ever worked. I felt like I was as in good a shape and as prepared as I could be, which is important for me. My confidence really comes from my preparation. I'm not really a confident person naturally. I'm not one of those people that just thinks, I'm amazing. I very much get any kind of confidence that I have through, reps and prep and all of that. So it was really important to me to have my best preparation. So I felt really good going into it because I knew that my confidence would be tested. I knew that going into this, I was going to be tested in terms of that. And I was. Once camp started, Kate actually had to go back because she's a teacher. So she was only there for her school holidays break. So she literally left the day before camp started, which is fine because it meant, I could just kind of like lock in and whatever. But I was playing really well and doing really well and enjoying everything and then camp started. And I was so nervous. Like I was working really hard and doing all of those things, but I was just kind of like, I wanted it too much. I literally had like the coach pulled me aside on like day 4 and she was like, there is such a thing as wanting it too much. She's like, I know you want it. I know, you're working harder than anybody, but like, it's like almost working against you now, like you just, when you just too much, like you just want it so badly. It's all going wrong. So, that conversation was like kind of the fork in the road for me. Cause it was like, well, how do I handle this now? She's basically just told me I played myself off the roster. And I was like, I could, really kind of completely finish my collapse here and just go, be terrible. Or, I can just kind of say F it and just, that can be my sort of, release and I can just play now and I can just have fun. There's zero pressure because I can't do any worse. And fortunately that was the response that I had. I just was like, you know what? I've come here. I've worked so hard. I'm not going to let, trying too hard be the reason that like I don't make it. Like that's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So yeah, after that, I finally, just kind of settled in, I think, and I think I just stopped stressing. And again, it's hard to pinpoint how I did that, other than like, I think I just had this moment in my mind of like, I just stopped stressing because I knew I had already kind of. Not like let myself down, but I had already like had that moment of like, okay, it's gone wrong, because that's what your fear is, right? When you go into these things, it's like that you're going to mess up or you're going to do something wrong or it's not going to go as perfectly planned. And it already hadn't. So it was like, well, it can't kind of get any worse in terms of that. And I think that was just my like exhale moment of like, all right, well, let's put that over here. Let's move on. And let's just see if we can kind of, get something out of this now. So that was my biggest thing. I was like, how can I make the most of this? If I don't end up making this team, like I want to make this like a really kind of learning experience. I want to make this like a really important moment for me so that like I can take that into the next one. So it wasn't like I'd given up on making this team. I really wanted to make this team, but I think I changed my mentality from this being all or nothing and my only opportunity to ever make a team again to, like if I don't make this team, this can catapult me into the next opportunity. So maybe changing that and taking a little bit of pressure off really allowed me to just play and have fun. And then, on that last day, because it was the last cuts that I made it to, she called me and told me I'd made the team. And it was like wildest moment ever still.
Is it still the same coach still there or is it different?
No, she was only my coach for 1 year. Yeah. So
okay.
Like, that was the thing, like went through all of that. And then someone new who like, didn't even, because she was the coach that brought me there, even though she was the one who almost cut me. She was the one who wanted me there in the first place. So then it was like, oh my gosh, like, do I have to go through all of this again? Am I going to get like cut? Like if this guy doesn't like me kind of thing. So that was a whole different thing. But I think by that stage, I knew what I brought to the table. I was a bit more confident in that. And in my ability to actually do that at that level now, because I'd done it for a whole season, even if it was in very small, bursts and moments. Yeah. So I think that really helped. And I was just, I just tried to remind myself that, I was there for a reason and I had worked all of this time to get there. And, every time that I struggled with confidence or anything like that, it was always about just getting back on the court, just getting back to my comfort zone. And for me, that's reps, that's prep. That's all of those things. It's finding a way to, I don't know, the 1%ers.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And even that would be tough. I think you talk about not being confident, but you must have believed in your preparation so much that even if you weren't sure if the coach believed in you or not, to still believe in yourself and trust in what you did, and to prove that you, like you said, knew you had a place on the team and you offered something to the team that no one else could. And now to be able to do that over and over again, I think is pretty impressive, just that ability, because you do have to have, how can anyone else believe in you if you don't believe in yourself? So maybe that whole mindset of you were trying to control maybe so much and work so hard. If sometimes a control freak or someone, it maybe is covering an insecurity, or they're so insecure that they're controlling so much. And I'm not saying that's how you are in the situation, but controlling people, controlling relationship, controlling teammates. Yeah. Or coaches, even if they try to control so much, they're fearful of something in actuality. And maybe that coach pointing that out to you, but you still understanding who you are, what you've done in preparation and what you have to offer. Once you switched or whatever that was, somehow it instilled belief in your teammates and your coach, and then the next coach, and to keep getting contracts.
Yeah. I mean, I think like you're right. Like I say, and I do struggle with confidence, but I think at a core sort of deeper level, it's there. But like, I think that has taken years of, like I said, that prep. So like, it's obviously it's there up to a certain degree that I think is unwavering and that nobody can shake, right? Because I've done all of this for years. So those are that's like my foundation. And then it's like, certain games maybe make you feel a little bit better, but that's not like, for me, that's not permanent. So those ones can kind of be way at if I'm, not playing well, not training well. And so it's the prep that like, I have to go and like kind of stack back on the foundation. But you're right. Like, I think ultimately, in those moments, what do we rely on? What do we fall back to? It's our habits, right? And so for me, my habits or my foundation of confidence was all of the things that I had done, the hours I knew I had spent, the reps I had done, the sweat, everything I put into it. That was at least going to keep me, at this level, because that was just my foundation. So I think it was really rewarding more than anything. To see myself respond that way, because I'd never been in a moment quite as big as that. I'd never been able to sort of see how I was going to handle that. And for me to just say, F it, and just fall back on that foundation and that habit of whatever it was going to be it was rewarding to see that that's what ended up working for me. And that's what ended up actually getting me a spot on the team. And taught me a lot in that moment, honestly. Like I was more than anything, I was just really proud of myself. And that I think is a really special feeling too. Like you're not often, I think, really proud of like how you handle something and how you overcome something. And I felt like even if I hadn't made the team, I was really proud of myself and how I sort of handled that moment. So.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you're strong in your character and who you are, what you believe is morally correct, at least for you. Like I know everyone has like their standards, but those things, like you said, you can always go back to, did I actually try my best with the right intent and the right attitude, and knowing that I want to do well, not on the basis of other people not performing well, but simply, because you did what you could and you're genuine for people. So I think, having that kind of, and I think that comes out on the court. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you as well is you're a great competitor, but there is a right way to compete, in my opinion, and a wrong way, or right way to win and a wrong way with the wrong intentions, the wrong standards. So, and it's hard for athletes because their identity can be in just their play and not necessarily who they are. And I think, you grow along the way and you look back and like, oh, I probably could have handled certain situations better. But, just like preparation, you can fall on, well, what am I doing in the world? What kind of person do I want to be, whether it's basketball or not? And just fall on that. Well, did I do that? Did I hold up to the kind of human being I want to be? Yeah. And you're able to then, once you relaxed and saw that, like, oh, I did that, you're able to actually reach into your tool bag or, your box of tools and all the crossovers and, behinds and threes in my faces and other people's faces. You're able to do that at a high level, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And just as we start to wrap up here, obviously I'm in the strength and conditioning coaching type, industry as well on the side, and always looking for ways as well, how I can get better, how I can even look more like a basketball player. Because I think a lot of times, maybe both of us, probably the same build, similar height, similar whatever. We're getting overlooked. How do I know I don't look the part, but I can still get the job done? And so I think that's what drove me to be the strength and conditioning coach, is constantly trying to research, trying to study. A lot of WNBL girls have come and worked out with me, which I think is great, because if they get better, it makes me get better. That's like that healthy, where the whole league can rise, the whole team, or, whatever. So I just want to kind of hear about what your strength conditioning was like just the last, 6 or 7 months, what you've been doing, maybe how that changed compared to Europe, college. So maybe we'll start there. That's probably a better question. The differences between college, Europe, WNBL, WNBA, whatever that comes to mind, the differences of strength and conditioning, but what were the consistents and staples of, that you've kind of just always kept? And what you're going to do now with Perth coming up and all that.
College was the first time that I lifted consistently, and where I had someone telling me what to do, and they had a program for me, and they looked at my weaknesses and they were trying to improve them. And I really enjoyed it. And it was my first taste of getting stronger and seeing that play out and impact my basketball. So that was I really enjoyed that. I really liked that. I liked that just how they worked together. So that was great. And college was pretty much, I had the same strength coach the whole time. So that was the cohesion with that in terms of building and growing the programs every year was really nice. Overseas is obviously really different depending on where you play and how good your team is or how much money that they have and stuff. So Europe wasn't as great. Typically your coach was your strength coach as well. And oftentimes he or she didn't have a background in that necessarily. So I was often just left to my own devices, sort of, and I would sort of, revert to the things that I had learned and knew in college, what worked for me and stuff. So that was always a fluctuating thing. When I got to Perth, that was the first time, again, that I really got a chance to work with someone who was really, really good. And that was Daryl. And Daryl's been my go-to guy ever since. He got me in, when I was talking about going into Seattle, that was the best I'd ever been in terms of strength and fitness and speed and everything like that. And he worked, when I tell you, we did 10 weeks, that 10-week program was insane. And he dedicated so much time to just me. And I'm so grateful for it. But that, in terms of the things from, college to now that are probably the same, would just be that I really, really enjoy, and I really, I guess, think highly of strength training. I think it's incredibly important. I think it's a big part of why I have gone through my career without serious injuries. I know genes play a really big role in that for people as well, but I do just think the fact that I literally go year-round strength training, and it varies, obviously, in season's different than out of season. But I am constantly doing that and trying to stay relatively, strong or fit. I think is really important, and it's been a big part of, I think just career and development. Things have changed in terms of how I lift and what I'm trying to lift. And I think my focuses have been a bit more specific later in my career. Once I've worked with people like Daryl, he's much more sports specific. He's much more dynamic in his movements and what we do and stuff, which is really great too. We're not just lifting to lift. It's for things. It's for, well, you do this in basketball, so we're going to get you doing this to help you do that better, faster, harder, stronger, whatever it is. And thinking about it that way was really different and really good for me as well, I think.
On that note, I think it's huge what you just said right there. That's what I'm just going to cut in really quickly is, intention and purpose intentional reps and sport specifics. It's kind of like, here's a program. Let me tell you how to do it. Let me tell you why. And then see if you can do it in multiple dynamics or in multiple environments. So off the court, on the court, and on the field, whatever. Being the ability to get up and go do something anytime, anywhere. It's just, like just having strength coaches like that tell you what to do, why, the knowledge behind it of what it's working, then it can kind of make sense and you can see the production on the court. But yeah, continue on about what you're doing now or what's Seattle was like, but especially the wubble. I guess you probably couldn't do much, but the last 4 years there.
Yeah, Seattle's been great as well. I've used a lot of the, Daryl's been really great at helping me in season over there and stuff. And then Emily, who was our strength coach in Seattle, I just put them in contact. So they were sort of, working together as well to come up with what would work, because obviously that WNBA season, particularly that first one, was unlike anything I'd ever been a part of, just in that, like, I was coming in and like not playing like at all. So that was so different, but I was still having to stay ready to play and having to stay fit enough to play, not actually playing the games.
That's hard. Gosh, you're busier.
Yeah, it was actually busier. So game days were my off day, but like we were expected to do individuals and do like top up conditioning post game and stuff. So like you actually didn't have like an off day. And then like the next day was the off day for everybody who played, but you had to come in and like play 5-on-5 with the guys or do a 2-hour, whatever thing. Like, so it was just like, okay, that was great. I love that stuff, but it was also like, okay, I need to do this and not be like so exhausted either. So that was really difficult. And Daryl was really helpful. Emily was phenomenal in that. And just tweaking, like, we can do all these things, but they don't have to be heavyweight. We can do just like the speed movements of it, the body weight stuff. We can add bands for a little bit more resistance. We can get on court with some of the stuff a bit more than just being in the gym. They were just really open to like changing what I needed. And because what I needed honestly changed week to week, because then it was like, well, crap, someone might've gotten hurt and I had to play. So now it was like, okay, we need to adjust what we're doing and tweak and tinker. And they were really great at doing that. And I think the older I am, the more I listen to my body, the more in tune I am, and the more I understand that like, you have to do that. You have to listen to your body. You're like, and if your body is telling you that like you need a break, you need a break. And I used to never listen to that. And I used to always push through that. And I used to always think no days off, that's what, when you're not working out, somebody else is, and blah, 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 all of those things. And like, yes, that's great. And honestly, it's probably a big part of why I've gotten to where I am, but I'm 32. I've put in years of work. Like now I just need to like listen to my body and respect it a little bit more as well. And like you said, I think that comes with, it's not doing things, but it's being more intentional, more purposeful with what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Instead of just saying, like those intentional reps, like I think one of my favorites is quality over quantity now. So that's what I kind of live by now. Like it isn't about being on court for 7 hours. It's about being on court for 2, and they're really, really good 2 hours, and they might not be super, super hard either, but it's 2 hours where I got really great reps. I got what I needed out of what I needed to be doing to feel good, and I think appreciating that in my sort of older age has been really, really important. And in the bubble, it was like, that was a whole different thing as well that I had to sort of navigate through, because I was playing, but we were playing every other day, but I still needed to like, I'm someone that if I don't lift or do things, I lose muscle. I lose. Like you don't use it, you lose it. That is me. Like I will lose it fast. So trying to figure out ways to still maintain was really, really important for me. And then, like we spoke about at the beginning, maintain, but then still try and find like a small way to feel like I was progressing or improving or doing something that was really intentional, that was going to help me come the end of the season when I was going to be fatigued and tired and my body was really going to need me to have done some extra things to help me in those moments. So yeah. And
I know, I don't know if you have a Whoop band, but I know like Sue Burr wears the Whoop band stuff. Does she preach about recovery and stuff? Because I know she's older than coming from ACL. I'm 35, still playing as well. Like those things are I know she's a good example on and off the court. I mean, no doubt about it, obviously on the court, but
most of the girls use Whoop. I didn't have a Whoop, and I really wanted. But then going into the bubble, they gave us these Aura rings. So I use these now, and it monitors sleep and it tracks your activity levels and all those things. So it's been really, really like great to have. It does everything the Whoop does basically.
Okay.
So that's really great. Because sleep is a huge thing, like sleep in terms of recovery and in terms of being able to just be your best is actually incredibly important. And again, when you're younger, you take that for granted because you can. But when you get older, it's really, really difficult. And yeah, those nights where we were playing at 10 p.m. and getting back at 1, like it was really hard the next day to like do things and feel productive and feel good. And then, you know, get a good night's sleep and then get up and play. So managing all of that, monitoring it, and just having some data to look at and say, like, you know, when you haven't like slept well, you know, when you feel like crap, but to see like, okay, you really didn't sleep last night, or like, actually, you know what, you don't feel good, but like you slept better than maybe you think you did. So you can actually maybe do a little bit more or push yourself a little bit more. Versus being that like, oh my God, you slept for like 2 hours and your you know, HRV is this and your recovery is this. Like you actually, today is not the day to push it because you might hurt yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So did your coaches, did they look at that, your coaches and strength conditioning, or is it more just you kind of sharing with them? Yeah. Okay.
And they're open to it. Like they were fantastic at like, they're, you know, they say, you guys, you're adults, you know, you know yourself, you know your bodies, you guys talk to me. But they weren't like, you know, looking at our data and stuff. In there. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. All right. Well, we'll wrap up here. My last comment is your shirt is cool. What does it say? Bigger than basketball?
Yeah, we got it this season for the wubble.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. I know the Caps this year are kind of teaming up with Patty Mills in the We Got You campaign that he's doing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool. The Wubble did a good job just representing how we need education reform, or just trying to have an equal playing field, which I think is awesome. So I think WNBL and I know they're doing, I think We Will Rise or something, I'm not sure. And then the Caps are kind of doing something too. And maybe there's things that we can start thinking about doing it just in whatever the upcoming season kind of looks like and what all that entails, just to keep that at the forefront, because I think the situation in America, I think, is actually really relevant here in Australia too.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
And we just want to keep that momentum going with it. Like it's not this moment thing. It is a movement. It is something that, you know, requires actual change, you know? So it was really special, I think, and important for us. If the league was going to happen, it was going to be, you know, we wanted to use our platform. We wanted to make sure that was at the forefront of what we were doing, what we were fighting for. And we had messages every game, and, you know, I said it on the court, said it on shirts we wore. We were talking about it in timeouts, post-game media, everything. So yeah, that was like a really significant part of being a part of it, and something that I'll, you know, be really proud that we were leading the way kind of in that the whole season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, WNBA did great. So hopefully we can do some of those similar things that WNBL did. Maybe we can do that in WNBL. But I think that's a good note to end on, keeping that still at the forefront of our minds and our thoughts, and maybe our actions, thinking of tangible ways we can make a difference. So, all right. Well, thanks, Sami. Thanks for joining. Definitely qualify you as a smart athlete. So keep it up, and maybe I'll see you in this upcoming season.
Yes, sounds good. Thanks for all your help. And I'm sure I will be hitting you up for some more smart movements.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Sounds good. Take care.
Thanks.
This episode of The Smart Athlete was proudly engineered and released by the LUDUS.